842, new bus.
Okay, until further notice, when I figure out what telestrator app I'm going to use, we're going to be using the actual iRacing replay to go over stuff. So I'll just violently move my mouse instead of drawing lines. That's going to be how it has to go. So what we're going to be doing here is, this is going to be second lap. I think it can be first lap as well, but I just heat up my tires a little bit for the second lap. The run up here. So I'm going to just do it half speed here. So I just go all the way to the top, and really this line does not matter too much as long as you turn down early enough to get on full throttle. By the time if you're full throttle before the wall goes straight again, so before you're out of the corner, then you should be fine. You'll see 93, 100 miles an hour off the corner. So let's see, you want to be around this 120 mark at the start finish line. Doesn't matter too much though, because we're going to get straight into the corner. So as we're going into the corner here, notice something. My wheel does not move. Like, this is the position I'm holding it on this little kinked straightaway. So notice that I enter the corner using my low brake bias and just braking, aiming at this seam right here. So I'm aiming at the first seam from the bottom, and I literally just brake at a certain pressure and point to where the car is just without any steering wheel going to the seam, and then right before I get there, I turn my wheel to make it stick. But notice something: the moment I turn my wheel, and I am automatically lowering my braking as I turn my wheel. See that? The turn kind of correlates with less brake down to a really small trail, and then once the car stops sliding up the hill and is now sticking to the seam here, then I pick up instantly half throttle. So always go from 10% brake to half throttle. Don't leave any room in between, because you're going to just straighten your car out if you do that. Okay. So half throttle, and then the moment I'm able to unload my wheel, full throttle. So you see, I'm not quite out of the corner yet. I'm still kind of aimed at the wall, but we can manage it from here and do that. Okay, so let's take a look at that one more time. I won't stop it. So brake, no turning, all the way to the seam. Right before you get to the seam, you lower your brake to a drag and turn your wheel. Then you pick up half throttle off of your trail, and then full throttle as you start to unload your wheel. Now 3 and 4 are going to be the same idea here. So you see, same exact thing. So I really like braking to enter the turn here, and then turning your wheel once you kind of make it there, because this car can snap under this trail braking if you're not careful, which is why I'm doing this. So you see, I brake early. So what's my marking here? I don't really use markings, but like kind of at this grate there. And then you see, same thing. I go from high brake to a trail, and then I go instantly from brake to half throttle. Same idea, except 3 and 4 is a little tighter on entry. So I actually did dip my lefts a bit into the first lane, just to try to get some rotation there. And I couldn't go quite as aggressive on the throttle as I did in 1 and 2. So just keep that in mind when you're getting on throttle in 3 and 4. Maybe hit 40% instead of 50%, and then let the car stop sliding up the hill in that case. But you see, I'm because of this corner being a little wider on exit, I'm able to let it slide out, whereas in 1 and 2, I wasn't really able to let it slide up at all. 3 and 4, I can let it slide up, and I do that like so. And you see that the wall comes at you a lot slower out of this corner, so you can kind of let the car come up half a lane. This wasn't as stick to the seam as 1 and 2 was, because the shape is just a little different. So you just hold that partial throttle, and then once you're unable to unload the wheel, you slowly raise the throttle and get to full throttle by the time your wheel is just about straight. And that should be a good lap time for you. Okay, now let's take a look at long run. All right, let's talk about long run here. So that line in qualifying, there's nothing to me to indicate that won't be the line in the race. It's just the most natural line. And on short tracks, the long run line is usually the most natural line, unless you get those weird diamond, like Irwindale type lines. But yeah, just right on the seam. So the thing about long run on these short tracks is that the number one thing you want to worry about is not heating up the rear tires. And so how you do that is you throttle too early off the corner exit. You get too greedy, you go full throttle before your car is really that straight, and that will lead into you sliding your rears, and you will just murder your rear tires. Everything will heat up, every corner will handle like crap. So it's all about just managing these corners. Like, you might not be the fastest person in the world, but even that little loose moment there wasn't perfect for my rear tires. I saved it to where it wasn't a slide, but you just want those rear tires to never be uncomfortable. And you could try the bottom even. The bottom's alright, but the problem is this exit right here, it's a lot easier to slide those rear tires and a lot more tempting. So really just driving along this seam here, I think is going to be the best of both worlds. I think it's going to drive fine, and I think it's going to be easier to not slide your rear tires. And you can put pretty consistent lap times in right here. I have the brake by slow right now. As the run goes on, if your car gets too tight on corner entry, then you can lower it even further to the 57. But I like the 60 because I was starting to feel just a little bit too sketchy on 57, and it just didn't feel like it was getting me that much in return for the sketchiness. Also, another huge thing on long run is do not overdrive your corners. When you overdrive your corners, you have to put more brake into it, you have to put more wheel into it, and that is how you snap your car loose. If you're forced to go really deep into the corner, like I'm gonna go really deep into the corner here. So I go really deep, just let the car slide up if there's no one above you. You're gonna lose a little bit of time, but that's better than the alternative of trying to be a hero and sliding your tires, because what happens is that'll compound. When you make a mistake that puts heat in your tires, it'll compound and you'll just lose time every single lap thereon because of it. Whereas if you minimize a mistake, like I'm going to make a mistake here. If you minimize a mistake by overdriving entry and you kind of just let it drive up, and you kind of just say, okay, yeah, I lost half a second there, and maybe I even lost a spot, but I didn't lose my tires. And in a long, short track race, where there's a lot of laps and a lot of opportunities to make mistakes, that might end up being the key. And the final thing is passing. I don't think passing is going to be that easy here. Some people were saying how Kern might be easy to pass on. None of the grooves to me feel good except for that groove by the seam. Like up here, the car doesn't turn enough. That's like, and you see, it gets loose on exit and it's 3/10 slower. I just don't think this car has enough rotation on corner entry to make that top ever work. And then the bottom, you kind of have to be on the brakes for a really long time. And then your corner exit's going to be really bad unless you can drive all the way up to the wall. So I think this is going to be a pretty typical ARCA short track race where passing is at a premium, and people are going to make passes when other people make mistakes.
19.363.
But other than that, this line here, this is the golden line. Left's on that seam, just stay there. Left's on the seam for the whole race. That's what I recommend. Alright, if you have any questions, feel free to leave it in the comments below. Thank you all for watching. Hope you have a wonderful day, and I hope to see you all on the track.